So we're going to go over the back shu points. So the back shu points being in the back is going to be associated with yang. And so all the back shu points, it's a yang surface. It is faster than the front mu. And you could think of it as that since yang is more rising and it's active, it's going to be faster than yin. Yin is more submerged. And that would be the front mu points. It treats yin and yang by tonifying, but it's especially for chronic and deficiencies. So if front mu was more for acute and tonifying, this is more for chronic and deficiency. If you get confused on how to remember this or recall this, you can think of a elderly patient, and they usually complain about chronic back pain. That's very common as we get older. And so since this is the back shu, you can think of it as the patient has chronic back pain due to deficiency aging. And you'll see that for function purposes, the points that are here listed is associated with a particular organ, and this is where we get its function. So UB21 is going to be right here, the stomach, so it helps with rebellious qi. And then we have UB18, which is for the liver right here, and that's great for liver qi stagnation. So that's one of the easiest ways you can kind of remember what the functions are for the back shu points. And the back shu points that are above UB17, this is for where the diaphragm is, actually, atomically, and it's good for yang deficiency. So you can think of that this line right here, T7, this is where UB17 is going to be located. You can think of it as that's the cutoff line. So this is where all the yang is, and this is kind of where the yin starts to go, right? So this is great for yang deficiency, any points above. And you can see how atomically there's lung, PC, and heart. And underneath, which is the diaphragm here, is where all the liver and gallbladder. And so it kind of makes sense, right? Atomically when you think about it. So there's no confusion there when it comes to making associations. I'm going to just fix that a little bit here. I don't know why it became like this. I have things written properly so that it is definitely more, okay, legible. And the other thing we're going to go over when it comes to functions is that, so these are the inner shoes, which is 1.5 sun lateral and level for lower border of whichever of the vertebrae. But when it comes to the outer shoe, which is actually 3 sun, which are here, these are the outer shoe. When you align them, usually, for example here, let's not give that one, let's give this an example. Zhi, UB52, and it's aligned with UB23, which is the kidney. This signifies the kidneys. If you utilize these two parallel points, then they're good for mental associated issues. So any of the outer shoes are usually associated with mental issues, and that's what it's supposed to do, except for the exception of UB42, which is good for lung qi, which is right here. So except for the po, which is metal associated, except for that point of the outer shoe, all the other points are going to be utilized when it comes to treating mental related illnesses. They are usually paired with the yuan. Yuan is the points that are in each of the channels that we have, and it's the point that we use to grab access to its reservoir, and it has a very original nourishing aspect. So the yin is very associated with yin, and the back shu, as we know, associated with yang. So you can think of it as this is a yin and yang pairing, just as how the front mu, the surface area being in the front atomically, is associated with the yin, and it's usually paired with the lower hasi points, or more of what you would say all the yang channel points. So that's the pairing over at the front mu that we mentioned before. So I realize people sometimes get confused with the names Po, Shen, Hun, Yi, and Zhi. And they get confused as, where does it, who does it pair with? But if you know the element it represents, these 5 words, then it comes very easily when it comes to associating where does it line up, with the inner shoe. So we always say everything starts from Earth, right? This is the center, and it goes clockwise. So this is what I came up with. You can say, I hope that everyone's familiar with Pikachus. Yellow Pikachu zap humans. So the front letters that I have highlighted, except for humans, this is fire, Shen, right? This is Hun, so this is wood. Zap, this means Zhi, which is water, and then Po is metal, and then E is going to be earth. And so that's how you know which it lines. So how do you know in what order, right? Because on the back shoe, it's not in this particular order. But this helps you to remember which of these names are associated with which organ. So the way I remember this is that if you see all of this, even Po, Lung is yin. Shen, this is the fire, but it's what, yin. This is also a yin metal element. This is also yin wood element. This is a yin earth element. This is a yin water element. So if you remember how this goes and where the names go by, you'll know that the Po metal, all of these are associated with yin. So you know that it goes over here. For the Shen, it goes to the heart. Well, except for PC. PC is also fire, yin point, but Shen is usually associated with the heart. We always say the Shen needs to be housed. The Shen needs to be, it's a spirit, right? So that's associated more with the heart. So that's one of the ways you can remember it. And the Hun is going to be the liver, because that's the yin. And the yin for the earth is also spleen, and the yin for the water is kidney. So that's how you know that these go with these. Okay. So that way you remember. One of the other ways you can remember the inner shoes, you can just like when you do the front mu, you realize it's always PC, and then it was heart, and then there was stomach when we did the points for the front mu, which came down to Ren 17, Ren 14, remembering Valentine's Day for the front mu, and then it became Ren 17 for the stomach. So think of it that way, same thing. Lungs are usually in the, we know where it is, right, atomically. And then you can say that it goes with the PC, and then it's the heart. And that's how you remember, it's the PC first, and then it's the heart. You can think of it that way a little bit. The lungs, the PC, and heart, they all happen to be atomically all in the upper region before above the diaphragm. So just remember the order that it goes in. But the first, when we start with this T3, that's where UB13 is. They all line up. UB14, T4, UB15, T5. And it's 1.5 student lateral level with the lower border of. If it's T3, that's UB13. T4, UB14. If it's T5, it's UB15. We're going to skip 16 and 17. We know that's UB17 is going to be the Daishu. And then people are going to say, well, how am I going to remember all these things that are going to skip? Because there's a bit of a misalignment here. T9 is actually UB18. People may get this confused because they may think that these are supposed to go together. So think of it this way. The first vertebrae we start with, T3, lines with the first point, which is from the back shoe, is UB13. There's only 12 T's, okay? So think of it as you're counting backwards. So the very front end is what these are, and the last end for the T's, that's how it's going to climb up. So you can think of it as there's only 4 more left at the T's. It needs to start from T 12, 11, 10, and 9. And in your head, you can think of it as, okay, it needs to be, they're going to be paired together. You see, liver and gallbladder is wood, and then this is earth. So you're going to, but the yin comes up first, just like the earth. So you know it's liver, gallbladder, spleen, stomach. And that's how you'd recall these at the end. And you will know that it's 3 that skipped. And these do not align like the ones over here. Now we have the lumbar. We know that there is 5, right? But here, if you see, L3 and L5 is missing. So the first two, L1, L3, UB22 is sanjiao, and then UB23 is kidneys. So these are, you have to remember. And then you skip one, L3, and then you get L4, which you get UB25, which is with the LI. And then when you go to L5, it's missing. Then we go to S1, S2. That's UB27, that's small intestine. And then UB28, that's the urinary bladder. So you'll know that there's 3 above right here from the diaphragm, 4 below the diaphragm, and there's only 3 L's that are associated for the UB back shoe, but 3 is missing and 5 is missing. So the first 2, UB sanjiao and kidney, then it's LI, then it's SI, and then it's UB. You can think of UB is the last point that wraps everything up, being that it's a UB channel. You can think of it that way. Another way I also think of it is that it's LI and then SI, because when you go into the primary channel organs, when we learn them, LI comes first and SI, but always recall that 3 and 5 is missing. And then the UB22 and 23, you're going to just have to memorize these two. But in association to right here, there's another trap that people always fall into, is that UB42, you would think it'll start at UB43 maybe and it'll match up this way. It doesn't. So 42 is where it starts for the outer shoe, and the first one is po. Then it's 43, 44, and that's the shen, and the hun is liver, right? And yi is always the spleen, and zhi is the kidney. So from here, you start counting from 42, 43, 44. Don't remember this. Don't forget this. 45, 46, 47. $48, $49, $50, $51. So you keep going down. Okay. And that would pretty much be it.